Welcome to another episode of the Laura the Library Lady podcast, a production of the Massillon Public Library.
Hi, it's Laura the Library Lady coming to you from high atop the Massillon Public Library in our studio here with the next installment in our football series podcast. And I have with me today Mark Milano and Rod Strata. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to start off with each of you giving us some background about yourselves and where you're from.
Sure.
Mark?
I went to St. Thomas Aquinas, graduated in 1977, then to the Kent State University and graduated from there in 1981 with a degree in communications, which kind of got me to where I am right now. But I've been working for the past, almost 40 years in the areas of workers and unemployment compensation, representing employers and doing that. And strangely enough, I think it was probably about 20 years into that, somebody contacted me about doing a radio show because this board of trade that I was part of, we advertised on it, and it was a call-in show. And that started the whole ball rolling. I mean, I wanted to do communications. I wanted to do broadcast work once I had gotten done at Kent State. I had one job offer from a radio station in San Francisco. They were going to pay me a whopping $12,000 a year.
Wow.
So I said, I don't think that's going to wind up working out. But eventually I got into doing what I really like to do.
And that's radio and broadcasting
Radio
and sports.
and television, yeah. I've been doing both of those for at least 20 years now. I have a TV show that I do for both football, high school football, and basketball here in Stark County. For football, it's a high school football playbook, and then for basketball, it's a high school jam session. Those shows are aired on Spectrum Cable, Channel 989, air every Tuesday night, and then Saturday mornings. And if you want to watch it online, you can do that anywhere.
Oh, cool.
In the United States. And strangely enough, when I came in, I think it was your janitor that was down there. He looked at me and he goes, I just want you to know that I watch your show all the time. So whoever he is, thank you so much for watching the show once again.
Oh, my goodness. Awesome.
You got one fan.
I do. My one fan.
There you go.
Well, over to you, Rod.
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm very humbled to be here. So I grew up basically in a lower middle class family. We lived in Plain Township. And then in 7th grade, we moved to Perry Township. So I went to Edison Junior High, Perry High School, etc. Graduated in 76. I was 19 when I graduated. So I was fortunate enough to play football, basketball, track were my three main. And then my last year at Perry, I wrestled. I didn't go out for football until I was in 9th grade. It's crazy, right? But I was very fortunate and blessed to have several schools recruit me. And I decided to go to Michigan State University, where I had, without God, I had success. Of course, there was much higher power, and God helped me out for sure. I was able to start all 4 years. And it's interesting, I didn't make all-county here in Stark County or anything like that, but I was fortunate enough to make all Big Ten and All-American. 13 All-American at Michigan State. And I'm a former football captain there. I was a communications major as well. My focus there was to maybe do corporate relations, things like that. And but that's not where I started at all. I played briefly a little bit of paid football, professional football, not long. And then I just decided not to chase it. I don't know. I was blessed with good, decent knees and never surgery. So I started my career in the freight business and management.
Okay.
I ran a region at the young age of 33, which is kind of unheard of at the time. And then I jumped into technology in 1994. I have a deep supply chain background, very deep. I have moved 21 times.
Oh, my goodness.
I've lived in Asia for 4 years. I worked for a large company called SAP, which is a very large business software company, probably one of the largest in the world. And I was fortunate enough to help them build the logistics business in their portfolio globally. And then thereafter, I did more technology. I was a COO in Cleveland. I'll wrap this up on my career. And lastly, I think my last was an interim CEO for a startup software company, and they're doing great.
Nice.
I just help out a little bit as an advisor on the board. And as far as broadcasting goes, I basically, if I really get down to it, was last year when I first started. I mean, the real broadcasting.
Really?
Yeah. I was asked to join the team, and I did, and I'll always be grateful for that opportunity.
So did Mark ask you or somebody else?
Someone else asked me.
And you guys kind of got teamed up then?
Yeah, I kind of lured him into the whole thing.
Ah, I see.
And based upon my background, it was really a great fit. It was great to get back into the game. And what I really like the most is helping the kids any way I can. And that's what we'll talk about a little more about as we go forward here.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask you too, now you're back in the area. You're not in Asia, obviously. You're kind of back where you started out from. So do you
Full
guys
circle.
have some Massillon ties since we're here in Massillon?
Well, when I was in high school, going into my senior year at Perry, I was asked a few times if I'd like to come to Massillon.
I see.
And
This was in the 70s, people remember.
yeah, it was in the 70s. I remember Mr. Harmon, Bill Harmon's father at the time. Bill Harmon was a pretty good player here in Massillon. And I think it was Tom Mady. Anyway, a few people I knew back then. And I wasn't arrogant because I was like I said, I was decent in high school. I wasn't crazy standout. But I said, you know what? If I'm any good, they'll find me at Perry. And I didn't want to break that loyalty to the coaches, right? But I always had some good friends in Massillon. J.P. Simon, as I mentioned before we started, J.P.
Yeah, he owns businesses here in town, and
he owns businesses. He's a great assistant coach at Massillon. He had the defense last year, which of course got them through the final game, most of the season, really. Of course, their offense was outstanding as well. And so JP is just a fine, I call him a young man. He's much younger than I am, but really good guy. Very straightforward. And I've spent a lot of time with JP thus far. When I say he's kind of on the Spartan Sports Ohio team.
And that's the name of your...
Yes, SpartanSportsOhio.live. SpartanSportsOH.live.
It's new. You don't need to know it yet, right?
Brand new. But the website will be launched soon. I've been, like I mentioned at the beginning, I've kind of, and I'm not a mark, trust me. I love what I'm doing, but it's a lot. I've been building this brick by brick from the technology side, getting the website put up. I hired a company. Mm-hmm. So that's going on. We have a YouTube channel, as I mentioned, Q92 Sports. And a shout out to Don Peterson. I mean, they are partnering with us. So we're coming right out on our first year on the Q92 FM platform, which is, I think, just amazing and so grateful.
So you and Mark are going to have your shows on there, and
that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. So we're going to have 4 basically work streams. The genesis of Spartan Sports was podcasts, and not just a podcast like this, right? But similar. Mm-hmm. But my idea was to go really deep into a person's soul and heart and in their life journey versus just focusing on their success. Mm-hmm. So, we'd like to know some of their heartaches, some of their biggest disappointments, some of their, and how they stayed motivated and what helped them get from A to B and C and D, and who were mentors in their life and inspirations.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a really great show to listen to. You're intriguing me right now.
Well, and the whole purpose of this, if it says here, what defines success? If it helps one person that's struggling, whether it's in athletics or life, it's well worth it. So
that's a great sentiment, yeah.
That's where the genesis started. And then working with Mark, he has his 2 TV shows. So we said, okay, we can bring that into the platform. And then we're going to do high school football games on Friday nights. So we were always thinking about doing high school football, but it all came together. So we'll have Friday Night Lights, as we call it. We'll have a weekly kind of a recap, a roundup of the games from the prior week and the games coming up. Then, of course, we're going to have the podcast series is ongoing. It's called How Did It Happen? That'll be the name of it. And it'll go kind of on our Human Spirit platform.
Nice.
And then we'll have Mark's 2 shows, the high school football playbook and the basketball jam session.
Ooh. All right. Well, Mark, back to you do you have any Maslin ties?
I do. Actually, my coach, Jack Rose, when I was at St. Thomas Aquinas, was the head coach over here at Maslin. So he told me how Obi the Tiger got its name. I never had any idea.
Oh, yeah.
Laura, do you know the answer?
I know.
Okay. Rod, you don't know the answer?
No, I do not.
Orange and black, O and B. That's how the tiger got its name. I didn't
Wow,
know that.
That's pretty cool.
And Cale Miller is also a very good friend of mine. He's one of the assistant coaches on the Maslin staff. And when I look at that staff, and there's some great coaches there, this is a young man that's going to be a head football coach somewhere. I just don't know where that's going to wind up being, but he is really good. And I just saw him last night. I fish in tournaments. There was a Wednesday nighter that we had over at Portage Lakes, and here he was out there, and I'm out on the boat. And he goes, "Hey, is that Mark Milano out on the boat?" And I said, "Cale, how you doing?" I said, "I'm going to talk about you when we do the podcast tomorrow." So there's my shout out to him.
Wow.
I'm a man of my word.
And then we're going to have at least one listener.
Yes, that's right. I
That's
told
right.
him. I
Got
told
one
him.
listener.
Listen
all
for
you
your
need.
name. Listen for your name. Well, how do you feel that you guys work together as a team? Obviously, pretty well. With this new venture and everything.
I believe so. I've known Mark much longer than when we started doing this together. When I was home, either from break or in the Christmas break, whatever break, home from Michigan State, there was a group of folks from Aquinas, including Mark and myself and some others. We all kind of hung out and had fun, while we were home.
Sure.
Hanging out. And
I know exactly what the Michigan State Big Ten championship ring looks like, because he used to hold it out in front of me like this, like he was the Pope, and I had to come and kiss it.
No. That's a little exaggerated, but maybe not. Yeah, my ego, I will say this, my ego was way out of control back in the day.
It was funny, though.
And ego's not a good thing, trust me. But, yeah, I've known Mark a long time now, not day to day. As I've mentioned, I've moved 21 times. So, throughout my career, et cetera. And but it was so refreshing when I moved back, to run into Mark once in a while. And it was a few years back. I said, that what you're doing is pretty interesting. I might be interested in doing something like that. And I reached out to a couple friends of mine. One is a really good gentleman named Dan Belford, who's at WHBC. And in fact, I spoke to a couple folks about an opportunity there. But, fortunately or unfortunately, I think they had maybe somebody internally or whatever to take the slot. And I was okay with that. But I always had in the back of my mind that one day, if the opportunity arose, that this would be a lot of fun. Now, did I believe that I was going to start our own company? No. But I'm going to tell you what, it's the best way to go. Therefore, we know and we can set the table for our code of ethics, right? And you'll see that when you peruse through the little document I gave you.
It's all about Spartan sports.
We're a faith-based company. I'm just going to say that. Mm-hmm. And all of our way we're going to do business and interact with people are going to be on very respectful, truthful, and integral.
Is that a word?
Forward.
Did I learn a new word today?
What's that?
Integral?
I think so. I made it up.
Okay. Ethical.
Ethical for sure.
Ethical, I like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can see all of them. And there's not a ton of them, but what we want to do is be extremely transparent, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think, at least now we're working with Q92 in regards to sponsors and all that, but that's really, it's necessary, but I don't believe we need 1,000, tons of sponsors, because I want to be able to add value to whoever decides to invest in us. And if you have too many, you're not really giving justice to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's another part of our, I would say, our foundation.
All right. Well, now you already shared my next question. You already shared a funny moment The funny thing
That's one of many.
That's one of
Trust
many.
me.
Because I tend to try to ask folks for, what's a funny or memorable time that you guys had together, a funny story about doing something on your TV show or whatever. And they always, go, oh, I can't think of any. And then after we get off the air, then they go, oh, yeah, I had this really good story. And then they tell it off the air. So, any more funny stories, any more?
Oh, sure. Before I had gone up into the booth, I was down on the sideline all the time, and my mic was hot the whole time I was down there.
Oh, boy.
And we would go into Louisville, and there were a lot of guys over there because I played softball for 22 years that I had known. And some of the things that they were saying when I had a hot mic were coming across the airwaves, which wasn't necessarily the best thing. But, being a St. Thomas grad, I can say that I have total disdain for Canton Central Catholic. I mean, if they lost every game in every sport every year, I'd be a happy man.
Is that really the Christian way?
It is. Eye for an eye.
Because I went to Central Catholic, and I didn't tell you that.
Bob Madden was the head football coach at St. Thomas Aquinas, and I'm on the sideline, and we're beating Central pretty bad. He goes, do you want to call a play? I said, yes.
Oh.
My play went for a touchdown.
No way.
Oh, goodness. Well, last year, how many blunders did I make?
None.
I made a few. It almost went back to that Bob Uecker statement in Major League, like, don't worry about it. Nobody's listening anyway. Right?
Oh, okay, there you go.
But no, I had some blunders. But you know what? It's fun. I have, what do they call it, self-deprecation or whatever. I love it.
Oh, yeah, you got
I mean, you got to have fun with it, right? But
if you can't make fun of yourself, who can
why
make fun
do
of
it?
you?
I remember I had a partner who did play-by-play, and I was doing the color. And one game I had to do it all because his daughter got married, and boy, oh boy, that was an interesting one, being the chief, doing it all.
By yourself.
Right?
Oh.
So basically, I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I.
Talking to yourself, yeah.
And we're all okay. Right? But
You won all those arguments with yourself.
I got some good counseling, too. So, no, I mean, I have some great stories throughout the years, but some can be shared and some can't. If you remember, it was the 70s, and we had a lot of fun. I was blessed. So one of my teammates was a Small World, which is Mark drives volunteers for the Pro Football Hall of Fame for the Enshrinees.
Oh, yeah, physically drives them.
Right.
In a car.
Yes.
And one of my teammates was inducted, I think, in 2017.
Very good.
And his name is Morton Anderson. He was a kicker at Michigan State. He's one of those guys come out to practice about halfway through. I mean, my head's banging by then, from one-on-one drills. And, decided to kick a couple footballs, Morton's a great guy, well-deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And we're not going to go into his story right now, but amazing story how he got there.
Neat.
And so Mark was his driver. And I said, okay. Their schedule is not their own when they're in town.
Oh, I'm sure not.
But I decided to have a get-together at my home. You had about, I don't know how many people were there, 30, 40, I don't even know. But former teammates came in because everyone's going to go see his induction speech anyway over the weekend.
Oh, that's really nice.
And all of a sudden, I see Mark at my house with Morton, and they were there for 3 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he was giving me hell. He goes, you know more people at this party than I do. And I said, well, I've lived in Stark County my entire life. What can I tell you? But Morton is an unbelievable human being. He and I are really close. We talk at least once a week.
Wow.
It's pretty neat. And he
Yeah,
keeps telling me I
he's a
need
great
to
guy.
come down to Georgia and spend a week with him down there.
You got to go to his place.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be at his home years ago. And but yeah, I've got great friendships and memories throughout the years. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I think about the world we're from, in regard to athletics and sports, it's a very close-knit collaboration and camaraderie. Mm-hmm. And if I had to say if there's one thing I miss at all about not being engaged every day, is the camaraderie.
Yeah, the
it's
team,
all for the
the-
same purpose.
Uh-huh.
And you learn a lot about everybody. You learn a lot about yourself. And it's great.
I was in the McKinley locker room. Ron Johnson was the head football coach, and they lost a game. I think it was to Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. Or no, it was Youngstown Cardinal Mooney. And he said something that really resonated with me, and I've carried that with me ever since then, This saying is framed, hung up in my son's room. He's the head lacrosse coach up at Wadsworth. And it reads that when you learn to hate losing more than you like to win, then you'll become a champion. I am the most miserable person on the planet to be around after you lose, unless you're my teammate. And I just wanted everybody to feel that same way that I did. But when you take that same mentality and you put it into a marriage, you put it into your work, if you hate to lose, then that's what's going to drive you to make you a better person. Rod, my dad never wanted me to play sports. He kept yelling at me, "Don't play sports." He wanted me to study more and more. And athletics is what got me to where I am. I wouldn't be sitting in this seat if I wasn't.
Ditto.
When I graduated from Kent, I got a job at the North Canton YMCA working with Judd Logan. I was part of his physical director
what a small
team.
world.
Yeah. And this guy walks in, Greg Georgic, who is in my field in workers and unemployment compensation, and he winds up hiring me to get me in this business. If not for athletics, I would have never been there. I would have never gotten that job. And I would have never met my wife, Laura, which is a beautiful name.
Thank you. Yes, I know your wife.
It's amazing, right?
It's the best.
The path, the journey, the mysteries along the way.
Yeah.
Like my roommate went to Akron Springfield. We were the only two that year that went to Michigan State from Ohio, and they usually have many more because they recruit heavily. And
you can give his name to her. You can hold
Mark Anderson.
Okay.
Oh, another Mark.
Anderson. What if I can emulate myself after one person? I know, Mark, don't feel bad. It's Mark Anderson.
No offense.
Just an amazing person, and his wife. And so real quick, his poor wife, Regina, has put up with me as many years as Mark has because they met at Michigan State. And so how we met was I went in track. They had an indoor track meet at Walsh, and Mark's team was there. I didn't know anything about Akron Springfield, but I knew he ran track because a gentleman named Jaime Williams was a writer at the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and he covered us quite a bit. So I went over and said, "Hey, is Mark Anderson around here?" So they pointed me. I walked up to him. I introduced myself. He goes, "Oh, yeah, nice to meet you." And I looked at him. I said, "You got a TV?" He looks at me. He goes, "Well, yeah, why?" I said, "I have a stereo. You want to be roommates?" And we've been best friends for going on 48 years.
That's
oh,
a
my
great
gosh.
story.
But I would have never met him if I didn't go to Michigan State, nor if he did, because he
Right.
was recruited by quite a few schools. And you just don't know where life goes.
Yeah.
And I have learned that every decision we make affects where we're going. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And good or bad. And the part, Mark, about losing, what I take from that is you can hate to lose, but if you don't learn from it,
That's right.
if you do not learn from it, it doesn't matter.
And learning from winning, too.
Correct. I know there's people every day that live the same day all their lives.
Yeah.
No interest in learning more, no interest in doing more, no interest in
Yeah,
whatever.
expanding their knowledge about anything.
It's just every day, whatever that routine is, it's that. And I'm not criticizing that because that's what they like to do. But I just know, as Mark mentioned, with the desire and the things you have to go through, and if you want to compete, you become an athlete not during the season. You become an athlete prior to the season all year round. If you're not
Good
working
point.
every day, if you're not getting in shape every day, if you're not I mean, I used to take, I was a pulling guard, so I take small, you got to practice everything inch by inch. And if you do that well, then you have a very good shot of playing, starting, doing whatever, and being successful. Because I remember there were people came back to camp after the summer
And they weren't ready.
way out of shape. And it's competitive. It's at that level, everybody wants your spot,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And they're recruiting somebody to take
Every
your spot.
year.
Mm-hmm.
And to have been blessed to keep that for 4 straight years, it certainly wasn't my own abilities. Certainly, God helped me a bunch. And also, I had to keep working.
Right.
I had to outwork everybody.
Yeah. Practice.
That's it.
And
So those are some things that I would pass on to anyone that, I know we're in a whole new different world. I get it sometimes. But
But the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I
Right.
think that
There's no
advice
excuse. I mean,
from experienced people is always valuable.
Yeah, what I hear now, though, is it's like I'll hear some young men or say, you know what, I want to have a jet plane, I want to have this. My point is, look, if you go out and do the right things, you'll back into success. You don't play success, you don't put the target out there until you're doing the right things. Mm-hmm. That was always, everybody asked me, like, through my career. I looking back, I was kind of the get it fixed guy. Uh-huh. Every 2 years, I got a promotion where I wanted or not, and then my whatever 7% raise moved. Well, everyone asked me, so how did you? I said, nothing special. I just focused on doing the right thing with employees and my customers, and everything grew and everything worked well. Was I nervous every time I got a new position? Absolutely. I didn't go in there with, oh yeah, I got this. I was scared as heck, right? Because you don't want to fail. And if you don't want to fail, you have to have a little bit of fear, even though it's not good. You have to have a little bit of fear, as Mark mentioned, about losing.
Fear's a good motivator.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no substitute. So there's no protein bar, there's no rap song, there's no whatever that's going to substitute for solid integrity and work ethic.
Yeah.
I love the preparation of the whole thing. People would talk about not liking practice. I love to practice. I love to work out. I wasn't blessed with the size that he has. I was much smaller than he is. So I had to try to outwork everybody that was out there. But as time goes by and you're doing things, we talked about those failures. It's how you overcome those things. And I think that knowing if you're going to walk into a business situation or if you're going on onto a football field, a basketball court, whatever the case might be, as long as I knew that I prepared as best as I possibly could, I felt good about things. But what I see now are kids that walk out there and they're not ready.
No.
And I tell them, I said, look, you didn't prepare. I said, you got to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and tell myself I wasn't ready to come out here and play. Rod and I playing on the same team together, we would have been great because we have the same mentality. Uh-huh. I would have made sure I ran right behind every one of your blocks.
A lot of people did.
69.
A lot of folks did.
Me running scared is a beautiful thing.
I'd have to block my guy and then block the next guy for you, and then the next one there. But Mark mentioned this earlier. Without an athletic background, not just the background, but being successful through all that turmoil and pain, you go back to camp in August. You hear those bugs, you hear all this chickering going on, and then you're on a field that's just like dirt, no grass, and you're banging heads, and then you take a half an hour nap for lunch, and you're back at it in the afternoon. It's grueling, but it truly prepares you for the business world. Because you're going to get knocked down. You can't blame it on anybody else. There's time. I've made some some not good decisions in my past. Mm-hmm. And I paid for those. But guess what? It wasn't anybody else's fault.
Yeah.
It was mine.
And you were able to learn from that.
We all have responsibility in everything that happens. There's no such thing as somebody was 100% somebody else. Mm-hmm. Right? I know there's some things that are extremely unfair, but and I just think that, as you mentioned, Laura, history does repeat itself. But I hope it starts repeating itself sooner than later, based on the climate we're in now as a whatever. And I'm not going to go into that, but athletics it's a great preparation for life if you continue to practice, and you're not practicing on the field or on the court or on the track field. You're practicing mentally,
right?
And you have to stay after it.
And that's why I like kids playing multiple sports too. I don't like the fact that unless they decide they're going to dedicate themselves to one sport, because you're working different body parts. There's different workouts that you're going to wind up doing, but the mental aspect, to your point, having to prepare for more games. I think that the mental aspect of the game is awfully important too, and I like that part too. And when you're out there and you're playing, having trust in your teammates, not moving around. We talked about some of the changes. Back in the 70s, guys didn't move around too much. Now, I've seen kids go to 3 different schools 3 different years.
Yeah.
Right.
And I really don't like to see that. If Rod and I are playing together and we're going, okay, this is my senior year, I'm not saying that I should start just because I'm a senior, but they're telling me, hey, you're the guy. They pull somebody else in, and now I'm sitting down. I'm going, hey,
where'd that guy come from?
Yeah.
Right. Where's he been?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different environment. Back in the 70s, if you wanted to go play at another university, you had to sit out a year.
That's right.
Now these guys can go from one to the next, one to the next, one to the next, and of course, they are getting paid now.
He'd have been a multimillionaire with the NIL
Rod.
money because he had that personality, that aura.
I had so much, it's funny, I had lost so much press for a lineman, and probably because I was an idiot, but...
You were a quote machine, trust me.
And
So everybody should look you up on Google, Rod
You can.
Strata.
there's an article out there. I was blessed, and it's in there. I'm not going to, you can talk about the greatest ever, my number, whatever. But anyway, yeah, I what I'm saying is that you just have to be prepared no matter what you do.
Well,
Don't get me wrong. There's days now that I don't want to, there's some days I have a lazy day. And it's
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
Right? But if we're going to get Spartan Sports Ohio running well and our solid platform of integrity running well, guess what? It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you got to do it every day.
Well, then to kind of wrap it up here, you want to tell us some more about where we can find you and when that's going to pop up for everybody to find Spartan
You want
Sports?
me to start with that?
Sure, yeah, that's your baby.
So our website will be spartansportsoh.live. Now, I have .com as well. I'm working with the company I've outsourced to the website. It's interesting. I read all the content. They sent it back, and they kind of like, well, here's your content. Wait a minute. You took half of it out. But anyway, we're finally getting there. I have one more document to get to them, and I'm assuming our website should be at the end of the month.
Oh, okay. End of May here, so
I'm sorry?
the end of May here?
Should be.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, you can get a hold of me anytime at Sparty at Spartan Sports Ohio.
Sparty?
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Well, that's, Sparty's.
You're cute today, Rod.
Oh, wow, boy, like a puppy? Sparty's the Michigan State mascot, of course. And,
see how much I know.
And actually, my license plate, Ohio, says Sparty. Nobody else could want it, I'm sure.
I was just going to say, do people
Who would want
throw
that?
tomatoes?
I don't care. I told Woody no.
Ooh.
Not that I was that good. It's just that he recruited so many folks, you don't know where you stood. And there was no guarantees. There's no guarantees in life, period.
Well, that's true.
But I had an opportunity and an opening up there, and it worked. But no, Sparty at SpartanSportsOH.live. And then our website will be out. We have a YouTube channel. There's 2 videos that have been created.
2?
Yeah, one's a short one. First one I created was kind of long, but it's eclectic with a lot of the AI images. And the other one's a little shorter, both coming soon kind of things.
Cool.
And so they're Spartan Sports. I think it's SSO. I'll come back to you with the website or the Google.
YouTube.
Yeah, and so now also I'm going to try to get some help in establishing a Facebook group and the Instagram group, and I have LinkedIn, so I'll put another one there.
Sure. So we're going to be able to find you all over the place.
You should be able to find us pretty easily, and Mark as well. I mean, he's got a legacy of shows and et cetera. But all this is we are together, but from a the platform and the technology. That's all coming together very well.
Uh-huh.
And so we should be accessible, let's call it in June, worst case. All of us should be accessible anywhere you want to find us.
So we should all check it out.
You should, please. And again, I want to thank Q92 for giving us the opportunity to partner with them.
Yeah, that's going to be a great place for you to be.
My Twitter handle is at Mark A. Milano, so it's easy to try to get a hold of me. So if anybody has any questions about anything that's going on.
That's right. I have one too. I'm Spartacus.
There you go.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you guys, Rod Strata and Mark Milano, for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
We're again.
Could have done this for a lot longer.
Yeah, we're humbled to be here, and I'm very grateful. And we thank both of you.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Laura the Library Lady podcast. Be sure to check out the rest of the episodes on the Massillon Public Library's YouTube channel. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many other podcast platforms.